Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Debate Final Project on Speaking for Academic Purposes by Group 3. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I have the pleasure to introduce you to the 4 teams as well as the adjudicators. As for the adjudicators, we have Sherinkeshia Usagi and Muthia Andjani. For the opening government, we have Mirza Ulkhaq and Zahwa Nabila. As for the opening opposition, we have Deva Ayunita S and Loviana R Alvanada. As for the closing government, we have Ananda Fitri S and Nurukhfi Hapsari. And for the closing opposition, we have Shinta Alifia and Gabriella Maura. Okay, before we start, for each panelist, you have maximum 7 minutes to deliver your speech. You can use timer to make sure that you don't overtime yourself. So, without any further ado, I would like to invite the Prime Minister to open the debate.
Starting in 3, 2, 1. Panels. First, let's be clear why the traditional education is very important to us in Indonesia, right? So, the main motive of traditional education is to pass on the values, manner skills, and the social practice to the next generation, which is necessary for their survival. We believe that in traditional education, the student will learn about the customs, traditions of the society in which their lives. It creates a routine which the student have to follow, and in turn this will bring punctuality and discipline. We are aware that this is very important for Indonesian young generation because basically providing traditional education from an early ages can help young people in building their future, provides them with the basic about the work and the system at work by passing on experiences from teacher to students. As we know today, the young generation in Indonesia is very vulnerable to brainwashing under the guise of ideological developments and technological advances that make the young generation more and more swayed. For example, in this case, when they are told that there are people who can be successful without completing their education, like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, and etc., of course, with zero knowledge, they will automatically underestimate the importance of education in life. This is the first reason why we as the government is really regrets the existence of those individuals who achieve success without going through education or traditional education. The next reason is that we have clearly stated that education is very important and even mandatory. For example, as we have stipulated in the 1945 Constitution or UUD 1945, Article 31, and also in the Republic of Indonesia Law Number 20 of 2003, concerning the national education are set to develop capabilities and shape the character and civilization of a nation to develop it. The potential of students to become human beings who believe and fear God Almighty, have noble characters, healthy, knowledgeable, competent, creative, independent, and become democratic and responsible citizens. The function of national education is as the main tool to develop abilities and improve the lives, mood, and national dignity. Education is essentially an indirect investment for the production process and direct investment for the improvement of the quality of human resources. And we believe that education will improve and enhance the quality of the workforce, thus enabling a more skilled, reliable, and in accordance with the demands of development and increasing national productivity. That's why we set the 9-year compulsory education to equip our young generation. So, the existence of successful people without education who are said to be only equipped with hard work and effort and so on and so forth is one of the irregularities of government regulations. Here I will state 3 advantages of traditional education that we believe can bring success. First, active learning. One of the top reasons that traditional education's life can be benefit the students is having contact with teachers or professors or instructors Here, students can set up face-to-face with their teachers to discuss their class, their performance, or a project. As we know that teachers are source of experiences and its existence is a container that accommodates the curiosity of students. For example, according to a survey, Chinese people are really value their teachers and have proven that teachers are the contributors of successful people. Second, in traditional education, the usage of book for reading is a strong practice. As we know that books are a window to the world because there are lots of information that we can get from there. Even many world figures who started their success from reading books, for example, Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, Warren Buffett, and etc. They have proven that the more you read, the sooner your success will approach you. Third, practical lessons. In traditional education, there are some school experiences you won't gain in any other place. For example, field trips, school activities, and different clubs. Many people assume that traditional education is only based on theoretical lessons. However, we strongly argue against this assumption because there are activities outside the class that can provide many life experiences that will be beneficial for students. For example, like extracurricular. Last but not least, we totally support that the young generation must complete their education accordingly. Not like some successful people who drop out and do not complete their educations. We know that education can bring success and Indonesian people is very obligated to do it for the betterment of our country because we strongly believe that the progress of our country, Indonesia, is in the hands of the educated young generation. About this reason, I can say that I'm extremely proud to talk as the Prime Minister. Thank you.
Very much for that amazing speech. Now, calling the leader of opposition, Deva.
Good day, everyone. My name is Deva Ayunita S, and I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, from the very beginning, the Prime Minister never really understand about the motion. The Prime Minister has failed in finding what the motion want. The motion want is why we should glorify people who achieve success without traditional education. The Prime Minister only emphasized that traditional education is the only way to achieve success. In fact, traditional education is not always good for students themselves. Traditional education can actually cause a person to lose the opportunity to decide what he or she wants. Before discussing the idolization itself, I would like to explain my disagreement of the Prime Minister's argument that people have to finish what they have started as well as focusing on traditional education to be a successful person. Ladies and gentlemen, traditional education just teaches a bunch of theories and the students have no idea how this stuff can be used in the real life. We need to combine it with a practical and more realistic system that can be applied in each country or even internationally. Since we were kids, we've been taught the importance of staying in school. We've been taught that if we go to school, get good grades and stay out of trouble, we will find a successful career with a wealthy income. Can it really be that simple? Nowadays, there are many people who have a college degree but who do not make as much money as they thought they would. There are also many people who have achieved success being rich or famous entrepreneurs but never went to college or got a degree. Ladies and gentlemen, there are 3 reasons why traditional education does not always help us on our path to be a successful person. First, our mind will get put in a box. Many times, students are taught to think freely because we are required to complete a task within certain parameters. In order to be a successful person, thinking creatively with complete freedom of expression is necessary. Second, there is lack of skill-based education. The traditional education system focuses more theoretical knowledge rather than skill-based education. Meanwhile, the industry talks about innovation, creativity, and out-of-the-box thinking. However, the traditional education system does not encourage any of them. And the last is there is no risk-taking in traditional education. Everyday entrepreneurs or successful person may need to be assessing their business and thinking of the next step forward. And now, I will explain why the idealization of people who can achieve their success with a traditional education is a good thing. Yes, because not everyone understands what they want, and this is a normal thing. This is a good thing. as long as this is good, rather than idolizing things that are not important, we should idolize people like that to motivate ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, finding or even recognizing the passion or skill that is in us is something to be proud of. Why? Because this is not everyone can be lucky as those who are aware of their passion. Many people have spent years in a skill or passion, but ultimately do not find a match in that skill or passion. Therefore, they also have to spend what may not be a moment to find what they want. What is important here is about what we feel, not about what other people see or what other people say about us. And so the point is to choose things that make us feel happy, even though according to people we are more suitable in a skill or passion, but we are not suitable for that skill or passion, so we have the right of ourselves to choose another passion that we love more. Ladies and gentlemen, idolization is also able to show that life is dynamic. People who can achieve their success without going through traditional education are also able to motivate other people. Not all people have their lives run smoothly. We do not have to go to college or work in a certain major to be what we want to be. An example I say for the middle of society people. There are some of them who are unable to reach or complete their education until the end. With this idolization, it gives these people the motivation that they can also be successful person even they do not take traditional education. So people like Bill Gates make us realize that in dealing with this situation, we do not need to feel down or give up. On the other hand, we can immediately take other opportunities even though it is not in accordance with the major that we have already taken before. Having people like Bill Gates also can give us an idea that people who are desperate or feel wrong in taking their major actually exist, and this is a normal thing. In essence, this can open people's mind that the world is not only limited, like if we were study a doctor, we must be a doctor. When we study business, we must be a businessman. It could be when we have taken courses in the health sector, such as doctor, but in the end of the day, we feel more suitable to be as businessman, so we choose to become a businessman, and this is perfectly normal, and this is okay. Ladies and gentlemen, without or with traditional education, everyone has their own business. Bill Gates is also not that easy to achieve his current success. There are many obstacles that he has to go through, and that is something that is justifiable. After all, every human being in his past may not be rational enough to determine what he wants. For example, when we were in high school, we must experience a phase of confusion about our ideals of or what we will do for our future, right? Because of that ignorance, we could end up making decisions simply by choosing the changes that exist. For example, we take engineering courses, so we have chosen to run it first while looking at future opportunities. However, over time, with the various experiences that exist, with various lessons learned from life during the lecture, we become aware that we are no longer suitable in that department, and in the end of the day, we try other things. So, as long as we can do something well, why not? From here, we can also take example of Bill Gates, because in the end of the day, he succeeded with the passion that he has. Ladies and gentlemen, all options that we will take have risks. It's called trial and error, right? All these possibilities have the same portion to happen whether the person gets the material in a structured manner through school or not. Anyone can fail and can be successful. In the end of the day, we have to consider our option and do soul searching to realize what is best for our situation and our future, right? We must choose what best for us, and whatever we choose, we must own that decision and never look back. We are so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Alright, thank you for that speech. And closing the opening government case and calling upon Deputy Prime Minister.
Okay, my name is Zahwa Nabila and I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, first of all, let me return to what is the original purpose of formal education. In this case is traditional education. First, the desire to create thoughtful adults. However, in social life, students who will grow up as an adult will need the ability to live in society. They need to be wise and able to think critically. It is very important for students to understand how they should behave in social community. Second, the importance of self-esteem and confidence. We do want our students to feel confident about their learning abilities. This way, they not only have a firm grasp of each subject, but also the confidence to apply the knowledge in everyday life. It's important to nurture the strong balance between encouraging good self-esteem and their confidence. Third, learning how to learn. This is one of the key of education. School need to teach students how to find the information they will need once they leave the school. Therefore, it's important for student success that the student understand how to find answer to any question and problems that might arise. The last is the traditional school will teach them about life. That why they will understand good work etiquette and how to deal with other people cooperatively and teach them to get the information they need in the future. Just looking at the reason that I've already said, that we know that school is really important, and also if someone chooses to not continue their education because of financial problem, the government has already prepared a lot of funds and sponsor to be used as scholarship for these people to complete their education. So that cannot be the reason to not finishing education. Therefore, idealizing successful individuals without going through traditional education is completely untrue. This conception will make people underestimate the importance of education, and which in fact will further hinder the development of their knowledge. And what will be the result if more and more people support this idea? Not finishing or not going through traditional education will lead to many major problems. First, the decrease of the public education levels. We already know how a low level education will affect the condition of certain area. Let's say in Indonesia it will be the source of many problems. For example, the lower of the quality of human research, the image of conflict, and so on. Second, increasing the number of unemployment. This also will create a bunch of problems in our society. For example, high poverty rates, increasing case of crime, hampered economic development, and so on. And also for those people who did not finish their education, it is often to these people to not get a high position in their job in high salary as well. For example, based on Central Bureau of Statistics, in Indonesia, people who graduate from middle school only get a salary of approximately 2 million rupiahs. And the third is the hamper of development of a society that live in certain area. Of course, we already understand that Indonesia is a developing country. Therefore, it's very important for people to have high education level in order to advance the quality of our country. And that is why idolizing successful individuals who did not going through traditional education must be reduced or even stopped. And that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the speech calling upon the deputy leader of opposition figure.
I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that there are some successful people such as Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates did not finish the traditional education. They chose to leave the university before they graduated because they want to focus on the business that they had started. But now they can show to us, they can prove that although they did not graduated from the university, it doesn't mean that they can't be successful. We can say that their choice to stop or leave the traditional education is not totally wrong, since traditional education also have several weaknesses, and those weaknesses, like what Oo has said, can be obstacle in developing their skills and ability and their talent. We also need to understand that they who achieved success without going through traditional education, they stopped and left the traditional education not because they are stupid or incapability. In contrast, they are very smart, clever, and brave to take the risk of the choice. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you the reasons why this is worthy to idolize individuals who achieved success without going through the traditional education. The first reason, like what I have said before, they can achieve success without finishing the traditional education. By leaving the traditional education, they show to us that being successful is for anyone who wants to evolve more than others, for anyone who are braver to take the risk of their choice, and for everyone who are able to adapt in this dynamic life. So being successful is not only for they are who graduated from the university and finished the traditional education. Quoted from www.statista.com, in September 2020, there are about 9.1% of recent university graduates in US that are employed or jobless. It is only in the US, everyone. And then what about in Indonesia? What about in Malaysia? And what about in other countries? This data proves that graduated from the university do not guarantee easy employment and become successful in the future. And then the second reason, those people who achieved successful without going through traditional education have good personalities that can be a good example for everyone. They do not easily give up to the difficulties or problems that they face until they reach success. For example, Bill Gates, before he found Microsoft, he had found 12O data and he failed. But he and his partner did not give up. They tried again and again until they found Microsoft, and nowadays Microsoft became the most famous and successful operating system for computer. In Indonesia, we also know Mrs. Susi Pujiastuti, the Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries of Indonesia for 2014 until 2019. She was the first Indonesian minister who have never completed a high school education. Although after being a government minister, she enrolled a late school program or paket C. During her life as a minister, she dedicated very well. She was very keeping the Indonesian marine territory from illegal fishing and also from fishermen who use fishing devices that can damage marine ecosystem. Mrs. Susi Pujiastuti is also a successful entrepreneur in Indonesia. And then let's compare to the other officials and other important positions in Indonesia, like judge, for example. In Indonesia, based on Chapter 14, Verse 1 of UU number 14, 2009, one of the qualifications to be a judge is graduated from university and get bachelor's degree of law. But in fact, although they are graduated from the university, going through the traditional education, some of Indonesian judges are injustice and dishonest and also unfair. Those examples show us that the most important thing is about how people can find the opportunity of success. Also, enriching knowledge and experience can be factors of being a successful person. And to get knowledge and experience is not only from traditional education. We're so proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that speech. Calling the member of government figure.
Okay, I will start in 3, 2, 1. I started by the opening government before that traditional education is closely tied in Indonesia. This education triggers people to be successful with high moral values in society.
because life is not only about being smart but also being able to respect other people. Children with traditional education are felt to get more positives than children who only focus on one ability and not receiving traditional education. Therefore, we as the government side agree to this motion. The deputy leader of the opposition said that without traditional education, a child can be successful by pursuing their abilities and having a character that doesn't give up easily. It can be seen in practice that children like this have the ability in one's hands only. It's different with children in traditional education. Children in traditional education got some of knowledge provisions that can be developed again. In addition, they also gain soft skill by joining extracurricular activities such as dancing, drama classes, music, etc. In my opinion, persistence is even a daily food for children who receive traditional education, because children have to go to school and do what's assigned to them, then learn to be responsible for what they do. Like if they don't do homework or come school lately, so they will accept the consequences. This like if they this is the initial exercise of the discipline of time and responsibility for themselves. For social relation in school, children practice getting used to working together and thinking about the interests of others. This may not be achieved by a child if they do not get traditional education. Therefore, it is important to educate children using traditional education. This will shape children's character in their social environment and not become antisocial. This personality due to lack of social skills and difficulty controlling emotions due to aloof habits. Not everyone can control their emotions easily. Some people are even very sensitive to others. Just imagine if this habits owned by an entrepreneur, so then his or her employees and also the business will be affected by it. For the difference in values itself, I think it can be seen that people with traditional educational backgrounds can be said to be higher. They get moral lessons how to behave and talk to someone according to their age in school. They tend to be more careful in sorting words so as not to hurt the other person. Apart from that, they have a style of strategizing using several avenues. They put together other plans if the first plan didn't go the way they hoped it would. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech. Calling upon the member of opposition.
My name is Shinta Alifia and my speech will be begin in 3, 2, 1. Stop. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I agree with the opening opposition's argument because people who are not graduating from school can be role models, because not graduating doesn't make people become unworthy to be role models. And it is true that they can achieve success because of pursuing the skills and patience that they have, and then they are the people who have those persistency and they are not easy to give up on failures. I agree with the leader opposition statement that said not everyone understands what they want and this is normal. As long as this is good, rather than idolizing things that are not important, we should pay attention and idolize people like that. Many people have spent years in a skill or passion but ended up they realize that the passion or that skill is not what they want, and then I agree with the opening opposition said. They said there are not a few people with a bachelor's degree who don't get a job in their field. Academic achievement doesn't really affect someone's job or someone's work. Skill and patience are really important here, ladies and gentlemen. Besides that, success people are those people who have persistency, and they are the people who are not easy to give up on their failures. We know that education is not always about school life, but it is also about our real life, our habits, and our traditional education takes roles here. We know that there are so many people who can achieve their dreams after experiencing so much failures in the past. Let me give you an example, the familiar one. Mrs. Susi Pujiastuti is an example of a successful person without having received a high education. Although she is only graduated from junior high school, she can be someone who has served as the Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries under President Joko Widodo working cabinet in 2014 until 2019. She is a very smart, persistent, and strong woman. We can look at her excellent works during her tenure as the Minister of Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. She can be idolized by others because of her capability. So it proves that people who don't receive a high education can be idolized and they can be success people too. Moreover, people like Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos make us realize that in dealing with these conditions and situations, we don't have to feel bad, down, or giving up. They can give us the idea that people who are desperate or feel wrong about taking a major actually exist, and this is a natural thing. They have developed a unique perspective on taking risks and consequences of failure. To quote Jeff Bezos in 1997 to shareholders, he said, 9 out of 10, you will fall, but every now and then you will hit a home run, and that in business terms it's more than like 1,000 runs. Given a 10% chance of getting 100-fold payoff, you have to take the bet all the time. So it means that we must continue to strive, struggles, and do effort for success and learn from our previous failures. Okay, next, I found myself disagree with the government thing. So the closing government said that school could train social relations and cooperation from the circle of friends. It is also strengthened mentally by being responsible for everything that is done at the school. Well, this is not always be the truth because it can bring bad effect or bad social relations sometimes to the teenager or to the students. In fact, peer relationships are so important, they are often referred to as the second family for the teenager, and yet peer relationships can often be harmful in the life of a teen. Students feel comfortable in their relationships with their friends, even in unhealthy ones too. For teens, having the right friends can have huge impact on their life. In school, most students admit that they would rather stick with their friends, even if they know those people are toxic or bad for them. So yeah, then go it without a social circle. See, you can see here that the social relations and circle of friends in the school are not always that good. Okay, next, a question to discipline and time management training. So in fact, we can get it from the outside too. In time management, it is inevitable that self-discipline is important. Training self-discipline is important, and this is like the same as training our muscles. The more we train, the stronger we get. To train self-discipline, we should also admit our responsibility. We should also not allow ourselves being sidetracked by time-wasting distractions and activities. Most people do what gives them immediate pleasure and what is easy rather than what necessary for success. But successful persons are disciplined people. They take control of their wants, feelings, and thoughts which affect what they say and do. As we can see, we can learn it by ourselves in our real life, in our daily lives, and in our daily habits. We can get a good time management training, and we can be that disciplined from our family and from our society, or even maybe we can get it from other organizations too, outside of the school. We take a role in our society, and it trains our discipline and also our time management. For addition, when you have developed the habit of self-discipline, accomplishing tasks will be easier, and then your productivity will be increased and help you to move that much closer to success. So, it explains that success people are not only those who had high education, but they could be those people who have skill and persistency to reach their dream and their goals. That is all, and thank you.
Thank you very much for the speech calling upon the government whip.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one who are going to win this debate is the one who can prove something reasonable more than just mention being role models, high passion, develop soft skills, and so on and so forth. The point we as the government side of the house are going to emphasize more and more about this motion is that education is the most important to decide Indonesian people's prosperity and quality as workers and as human. Firstly, I'm going to strengthen opening government statement. Why should every workers get high education or minimum a college degree to decide their prosperity? So, as the opening government has said, people who don't undertake high education have low prospect to search for a job. Even though they have found a job, they will not receive a better payment since education degrees become the determination of salary. It is proven by the Central Bureau of Statistics data that university graduates or undergraduates earn a minimum monthly salary of 4.59 million rupiah on average, while the diploma education salary is 3.68 million rupiah. Unfortunately, for elementary school graduates, the average salary is 1.79 million rupiah. Central Bureau of Statistics also recorded that the average monthly salary for workers who did not complete elementary school is 1.54 million rupiah. Meanwhile, the salary for workers who did not attend school at all is 1.17 million rupiah. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the contrast reception salary between high education and low education indeed has become the determination of Indonesian people's prosperity. People who come from low education will struggling hard at the very end, especially people who have already had a family. It is obvious that having a family means the person who worked should sustain their family's whole life, include foods, living place, household needs, assurance, taxes, education for their kids, etc., which will be hard to pay all of those equally with the low income. Thus, high education take a big role in determining prosperity for workers and their families' life. Secondly, opening opposition has failed in explaining clearly how about people without knowledge will interact or being beneficial for another people in a realistic way. All this time, opening opposition just only focusing on idolized people with soft skill, the gifted skill, or not graduating people can become role models without concerning those people who will face the shame and difficulties if they don't have soft skill, the gifted skill, or become role models. For instance, or a mother should at least be educated and know how to read and calculate to help their children in working their homework. If a mother is unable to know, read, and calculate to help their children who have lower logical thinking more than adult people, then how can their children look their parents as their role models? This thing, ladies and gentlemen, will lead unskillful people to feel shame and worthless for their children. By these circumstances, ladies and gentlemen, we as the government side of the house still in our stand that traditional education is the most important thing to be idolized because education helps people from every aspect of life. We cannot support idolizing people with soft skill without consider the high education it should be proud of. Not every soft skill can lead you to a better life. If you notice that basic knowledge you can develop in educational fields is required too, such as train social relations, learning to read and calculate with the skillful teacher, and so on and so forth. Very proud of the government side.
Thank you very much for the speech calling upon the opposition whip.
I will start speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, here I would like to explain our argument about, in fact, traditional education is not always good for students themselves. Traditional education can actually cause a person to lose the opportunity to decide what he or she wants. In the current context, Traditional education is often a serious discussion, given the erosion of Eastern culture, which is influenced by Western culture, with the rapid indicator of science and technology as a form of global competition, especially in the development of the world of education. Traditional education is still considered conservative, conventional, and does not follow the times, but on the other hand, traditional education in fact has strong roots that participate in building human civilization. One of the examples is Islamic boarding school education, which deals with book subject and the learning process that is placed in the mix. The conception of traditional education is also necessarily not following the times, but further that traditional education is still strong enough to maintain and preserve all values that are quite relevant to current conditions, so that traditional education itself in a socio-cultural context still has values that are deeply rooted in social life. We agree with OO that there are not a few people with a college degree who don't have job in their field or as they thought. Currently, academic achievement does not really affect one perform in the world of work, because the most important thing right now is the skills and the willingness to continue to learn and develop. However, it does not rule out that the IPK is also one of the important things to find a job. For example, people with a high IPK and cum laude will have a wider opportunity to continue studying at home or abroad. Company HRD also tend to be more interested in candidates who are IPK better than mediocre. Ladies and gentlemen, we agree with OO's argument, which states that the idolization of people who can achieve their success without traditional education is a good thing. The most important thing here is about how you feel, not about what other people see or what people say about you. So the point is to choose the thing that makes us happy. According to people, we are more suited to skills or passion, but we are not matched with that skill or passion. We have the right to choose another passion that we love more. People like Bill Gates, Marcy and Jeff Bezos make us realize that in dealing with this situation, we don't have to feel down or give up. They can give up an idea that people who are desperate or feel wrong about taking the measure actually exist, and this is a natural thing. They have developed a unique perspective on taking risks and the consequence or failure. Ladies and gentlemen, we agree with the last argument, which is all options that we will take have risks. Every decision we make has two possibilities, namely failure or success. We must not be afraid to try something. We must not be afraid to fail, because all successful people in this world must have experienced many failures in their life until finally they can become successful. Ladies and gentlemen, we disagree with the OG's argument about the importance of being educated for success. Education does not guarantee that people are set to be successful. There are other factors that determine a person's success, including hard work, ways of thinking, and willingness to learn. We also cannot refuse to boast of both leaders who have succeeded without education, and about the difference in the value of people who are successful with education and those who are successful without education. Here are the difference is not too much, because we also know quite a lot about successful people or entrepreneurs even though they are not receive higher education. This is based on their willingness to learn from their failures and to keep trying and working hard, as well as the way of thinking that remains forward and positive. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to the Adjudication video. My name is Sherinkeshia Usagi, and I'm here speaking on behalf of my adjudicator friend, my adjudicator partner, Muthia Andjani. So here is our adjudication over the debate. Hello everyone, so here is the adjudication for the debate based on the motion of the House regrets the idolization of individuals who achieve success without traditional education. Now, first we're going to the scoring and rankings. So the first rank, we decided to give it to the OO, the opening opposite, and then followed by closing government in the second place, and then followed by opening government and closing opposite as the runner-ups. As you can see, there are already the scoring of each member. And then now we are moving on to the explanation on the rankings. So the first place, we decided to give it to the OO because OO's argument is stronger than OG because it points out how the OG ignores the disadvantages of idolization and focuses on the advantages of traditional education instead. And also it refutes the OG statement about the significance of traditional education. They show that traditional education actually limits the way of thinking, and it also makes students lack of skills, and there is no risk-taking in traditional education. They also give realistic examples of non-traditional education figures, such as Ibu Susi, the former minister of Fishery, and Bill Gates, and etc. They also provide background research to support their argument. Next is the second place is for the closing government. So the closing government successfully extends the OG's case about how education contributes to one's financial condition. They elaborate how job hierarchy works, it exists, and how education improve or has such a huge impact on Indonesia's prosperity. And then CG refutes OO statements about how people who don't go through traditional education are more soft-skilled than people who do, by giving such a mundane example. That is, for example, I quote, a mother has to be at least able to read or count, or have basic knowledge to teach and educate their children. Moving on, the third place is the OG. As we said before, OO is better than OG because OG doesn't really cover the motion, since they don't point out that many of disadvantages of idolization. It's about the matter. So OG doesn't really focus on the idolization itself. It is also lack of realistic examples or backgrounds of the mentioned public figures. Like, we think that they could have improved their arguments by giving out comparison between the mentioned public figures and normal people. And then the last is, instead of highlighting the problem of idolization, their analysis seems to rather focus on people who cannot afford the traditional education economically, financially. Meanwhile, the motion here actually questions about people who deliberately despise the traditional school system and idolize people who don't follow the traditional school system. And then the last place is a closing opposite. The closing opposite successfully extends the OO's case about how people who don't go through traditional education excel at soft skills such as communication. However, there are also points where they go slightly out of topic or irrelevant, especially when they bring up about the Western and Eastern education system, which is kind of irrelevant to the topic topic we're talking about, because we're talking about how people despise school system in general. And then CO also lacks facts or objective proof to support their statements, making their arguments sound subjective. Instead of sounding objective, instead of sound argumentative, CO's arguments sound more like motivational speech, because they keep putting in personal views such as, well, if one can work hard enough, they can achieve things, blah 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 blah. And there is no hint of facts or statistics or whatever. Yeah. I think that's all as for the adjudication. Thank you.